Let us pray. O Lord, grant us the daily awareness of the precious gift of life which you have given us. As members of this Legislative Assembly, we dedicate our lives anew to the service of our province and our country. Amen.
Introduction of visitors. Presenting petitions.
To table a petition today signed by some 800 citizens from the town of Hinton and beyond, asking the government of Alberta to hold a public inquiry or criminal investigation into the mystery of the contaminated fuel at the Hinton Husky truck stop.
Edmonton Millwoods.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to also present a petition for the Assembly this afternoon signed by some 4,232 residents of the Millwoods and District region protesting against the possible closure of pediatric services at the Grey Nuns Hospital in Edmonton.
Reading and receiving petitions. Presenting reports by standing and special committees.
Lloyd-Minster.
Mr. Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order 93, I wish to report that the petition for the private bill entitled the Jennifer Leanne Eachman Adoption Act, which has been received by the Assembly, has been taken under consideration by the Private Bills Committee, and the petition received complied with Standing Order 886. The Private Bills Committee has had this petition under consideration and recommends that the Assembly that the deadline for submitting the documentation to the clerk's office required by Standing Order 89-2 be extended in respect to this petition to enable the bill to be considered by the Assembly this session. Mr. Speaker, I request the concurrence of the Assembly in this recommendation.
Those in favor of granting concurrence, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Notices of motions.
Member for Edmonton Jasper Place.
Speaker, I rise to give notice under Standing Order 40 of a motion that this Assembly, recognizing the public safety is far more important than a temporary legal strategy, regrets the decision of the government to withhold information from a federal safety and design hearing on the Old Man River Dam.
Introduction of bills.
Member for Calgary Buffalo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I request leave to introduce a bill being an amendment to the Individual Rights Protection Act, Bill number 260, and this bill would add sexual orientation as a category of prohibited discrimination in respect of employment, accommodation, and access to public facilities.
The honourable member for Calgary Buffalo has moved first reading to Bill 260, Amendment to the Individuals' Rights Protection Act. Those in favor of first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill number 260, Amendment to the Individuals' Rights Protection Act, introduced by the honourable member Mr. Schumer, is now read a first time. Tabling returns and reports.
For Edmonton Glengarry.
I beg leave to file the wording of the petition that was given to the Associate Minister of Family and Social Services this morning. The petition was signed by 16,000 Albertans, and it urges the government to withdraw the regressive budget measures taken against Alberta seniors.
Minister of Health.
Mr. Speaker, I am pleased to file with the Assembly the response to written question number 302.
Mr. Public Works Supply and Services.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to table with the Assembly today the 1989-90 annual report of the Department of Public Works Supply and Services.
Minister of Occupational Health and Safety.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to file 4 copies of the Workers' Compensation Board 1990 annual report.
Solicitor General.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to file the required number of copies of the response to question number 303.
Introduction of special guests.
Calgary Milliken.
Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I take great pleasure today to introduce to you and through you to the members of this legislature the chairman of the Calgary Hispanic Performing Arts Society. And this lady is also, I guess, a flamenco dancer and has put on some very wonderful cultural events in the city of Calgary. I'd like for Carmen Galvez to stand. She's sitting in the members gallery. Please rise and receive the warm traditional welcome of the legislature.
Rocky Mountain House, followed by Smoky River.
Thanks, Mr. Speaker. It gives me a great deal of pleasure today to introduce some 63 students and teachers from the Sunchild O'Chee School in the Rocky Mountain House constituency. Mr. Speaker, they're seated in the members and public gallery, along with their teachers, Mrs. Carol Papineau, Miss Lisa McKenzie, Mrs. Gwen Rigamal, Mrs. Elaine Evans, and Miss Cecil Arthur, and Mrs. Elizabeth Anderson. I would ask them to rise and receive the warm welcome of the Assembly.
Big Smoky.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, it's my pleasure to introduce 20 young and bright students from the George P. Vanier Junior High School in Donnelly. These 20 students are accompanied by their instructor, Mr. Bob Owens, and Miss Karen Morey. Karen, this past year, was a member of the Forum for Young Albertans and was part of the group that was here a year ago. The group is seated in the members gallery, and I'd ask them to rise and receive the usual greeting of the House.
Bakerville.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's my pleasure to introduce to you and to members of the Assembly 40 people from the Two Hills Elementary School. The students are seated in the public gallery. They're accompanied by their teachers, Mr. Yarmouch, Mrs. Rudkowski, and parents, Mrs. Cassian, Mrs. Yauchuk, Mrs. Toma, Mr. Moroz, and Mrs. Pona. And I would like the students and their guests to stand in the gallery and receive the warm welcome of the members of the Assembly. As well, Mr. Speaker, if I could take the pleasure of introducing a former member of the Legislative Assembly to you and to members of the Assembly today, Mr. Leo Paquette, former member for Athabasca-Lac-La-Biche, has joined us today. He's seated in the public gallery, and I'd like him to rise and receive the warm welcome of members of the Assembly.
Ministerial statements. Oral question period.
Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, to the Minister of Technology, Research and Telecommunications. Well, surprise, Mr. Speaker, another one bites the dust. Mr. Speaker, today taxpayers have been given the bill for Mirius Research, just one of dozens of failed companies propped up with taxpayers' money by this bungling, secret, irresponsible government. Today, Mr. Speaker, we have learned that this company, which this government pumped over $20 million into, has just been sold, a shrewd business deal, for $1.5 million, Mr. Speaker, leaving the taxpayers of this province with a whopping $18 million loss, Mr. Speaker. What a business group. The Treasurer certainly knows how to run a business, Mr. Speaker. But my question is to this minister, what does the minister have to say to the taxpayers of this province about their new $18 million loss? Is this just another example of economic development success, conservative style?
Well, Mr. Speaker, the honourable member will certainly realize that this is not today's news. This is news just going into receivership, which is not good news, but happened last October. Today's news is that the research and the technology that developed from that research is going to be preserved here in Alberta by an Alberta company, will continue to employ Albertans, and the technology is not lost to be built on from there. And the proceeds of that are not $1.5 million, as the honourable leader suggests, but are closer to $2.5 million. And indeed, the investment by the taxpayers through this government is not $20 million, but in fact was $7.5 million loan and an investment of 1.5 by way of preference shares. Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to see the sale. I'm pleased that indeed that technology will be further developed. The technology was ahead of the market, but now I believe, and it's certainly a private company believes, that the technology and the market are now in balance, and it'll hopefully be good news for the purchaser of this company from now on.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the news is that we've lost a bundle full of money again, Mr. Speaker. It's just typical. I know after a while this isn't news from this government, Mr. Speaker. But, Mr. Speaker, the minister says that they've only lost this amount of money. What about Alberta Opportunity Company? That's the government, $3 million. VenCap Equities, we have over $200 million into that. They had $7.25 million. Loans of $7.5 million. Preferred shares of $2.27. And even the federal government's in it for $4 million. How does he justify those figures by saying that's how much we've lost? That's absolute nonsense, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, time and time again in this Assembly, the Treasurer and others have indicated the position of VenCap as it relates to this government, and the Alberta Opportunity and how they operate at arm's length. But, Mr. Speaker, the fact of the matter is that that company had developed some world-class technology. We invested in that technology, and yes, it was difficult for them to compete against the IBMs and the Crays of the world, and perhaps that's not a type of pursuit that they should have been following at that time. But that's easy to say in retrospect. But what I can say is that technology was world-class, is world-class, and will be developed from there. And I'm just pleased that an Alberta company has seen fit to take over that technology, develop the technology further in Alberta, and that will be for the benefit of all Alberta, and in that investment in research is paying off.
Well, Mr. Speaker, again, somebody else's fault. It's world-class, but the taxpayers are taking a bath again. And to say that we're not responsible for the Alberta Opportunity Company, the $200 million we put in VenCap, is silly to say the least from this minister, Mr. Speaker. But my question is to the minister. He says it's world-class technology. Mr. Speaker, something's gone wrong. The taxpayers are holding the bag again. I want to ask the minister, who's responsible for this huge loss again? It's not the minister, obviously. It must be the accountant's fault again. Is that the truth, Mr. Speaker?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'm not about to try and fix blame. Decisions were made on the basis of getting this economy going. It has been going and is going. Diversification is working. The advanced technologies are one area of our economic growth that are going far ahead of the rest of the province and indeed any other province. It's one of the reasons why we are not joining into the Ontario recession. And the technology that is developed here is something that is indeed world class, and the honourable member may not agree with that, but I can tell you that assessments made by the University of Colorado, for example, who assess that technology, know that it's world class.
The only thing world class about...
Second main question, Leader of the Opposition.
My second question, though, is to the minister responsible for seniors. Mr. Speaker, again, the contrast. This government gives $20 million to Marius Research, ends up throwing $18 million down the tube, calls it world class, but slashes $21 million from the seniors of this province, Mr. Speaker. What outrageous priorities, conservative priorities, Mr. Speaker. But I want to concentrate once again on the government's despicable treatment of seniors in our province. Today, the minister responsible for seniors attended a news conference when he was presented with 23,000 signatures, yes, 23,000, Mr. Speaker, from Alberta seniors who want these cutbacks reversed now. And what was the minister responsible for seniors' response? Even though he's responsible for the seniors of the province, he told them he will not table these signatures in the House. He even refused to let the chairman of the Seniors Advisory Council present them. Some listening, some government, Mr. Speaker, to the minister responsible for seniors. For the benefit, Mr. Speaker, of all the seniors of the province, will the minister tell them exactly why he won't do his job as their representative and table their views as expressed in the positions to this House? Is this a new listening and input that he's been promising them, Mr. Speaker?
Well, Mr. Speaker, the reason that I attended the presentation of those petitions was exactly that. I was there doing my job. The reason for the petitions, I presumed, was to present them to the government and to the minister responsible for the coordination of seniors programs. And I did that. As a matter of fact, I went out of my way, I went out of a cabinet meeting to specifically go there and receive those petitions. So I think that what their intentions were to present them to government was accomplished, and I helped to achieve that goal.
Mr. Speaker, does this minister not have one iota or one idea of what parliamentary democracy is all about, Mr. Speaker? A democratic right is for the people to petition the legislature, Mr. Speaker, whether the members like it or not. My question is again to the minister. Why wouldn't he give them this fundamental right and stand up and allow and present these petitions in the legislature, Mr. Speaker? Why was he so fundamentally against democracy?
Mr. Speaker, I'd take exception with that. I don't think that there was any fundamental rights breached at all. In fact, I represent the legislature for these seniors, and I went out of my way specifically to receive those petitions. So I believe that the concerns that they had were listened to, were addressed, and I have the petitions being delivered to my office, and I interacted with the seniors on their own home ground. So I don't see where this member is coming from at all.
Mr. Speaker, this government has a funny idea about democracy, let me tell you, Mr. Speaker. Funny idea. He represents the government, not the people, Mr. Speaker. But, Mr. Speaker, yesterday also this minister, it's bad enough that he does this, but his patronizing statement yesterday that somehow seniors are being manipulated, indicating that seniors do not have the ability to see what their government is doing and make up their own minds on their own. Mr. Speaker, now he's so scornful of their opinions, he won't even have the courage to table their views in the legislature, Mr. Speaker. And my last question to this minister is simply this, Mr. Speaker. Will the minister agree to stop treating seniors like children and immediately retract his insinuation that they are not capable of making up their own minds on this government's damaging cutbacks to their programs, Mr. Speaker?
Mr. Speaker, I resent those remarks. I never at any time reflected on I never at any time in my statements reflected on the ability of seniors to make up their own minds. What I was referring to was the influence peddling that has been going on by members opposite, and I would directly refer to the petitions that have been circulated by the opposition party and the letter that the leader of the opposition party mailed to every senior influencing some of their thinking. And if they want to talk about one-sided thinking, one only has to read the letter that the leader of the opposition mailed to every senior, and using taxpayers' dollars. Using taxpayers' dollars, probably out of it.
No, without question.
But Mr. Speaker, I'm fully aware of the ability of seniors to be the author of their own destinies, We know that seniors in this province are living longer, living healthier, are far more involved, far more active than they have ever been. And we're doing our very best to address this changing climate in our senior community. And I make no apology for the changes and for the actions that this government has taken to try to address the true concerns of. Okay.
Edmonton Glengarry on behalf of the Liberal Party.
Mr. Speaker, I'm a believer that southern Albertans need access to greater quantities of water, and I think that it may well be that the Oldman River Dam could provide them with that security of additional water. Mr. Speaker, they need water for agricultural uses. They need water for domestic uses. They need water for industrial uses. But, Mr. Speaker, I cannot agree with the government's position that it has taken today not to participate in a federal review panel that is looking at the safety and design of the Oldman River Dam, a review panel that was set up by the courts. My first question to the Deputy Premier is this. We know the position of the Premier of Alberta with respect to national standards for environment and education and health care. I want to know from the Deputy Premier whether he will agree, knowing that this river goes downstream and affects other Canadians, that national standards for the protection of the environment are essential, not only for Albertans, but for Canadians with respect to this matter.
The Honourable Leader of the Liberal Party may not be aware, although it has been public knowledge for several decades, that there is an agreement in place between Alberta and Saskatchewan with respect to the South Saskatchewan River system. And that agreement has been complied with by the government of Alberta. Right. I'm quite familiar with it since the South Saskatchewan River flows through Medicine Hat, and which is in my constituency. And furthermore, that it is absolutely essential that the people of Medicine Hat have a secure access to water year-round from that river. That is why the the Oldman Dam on the Oldman River is such an essential ingredient in terms of supplying to the people of the southern Alberta an adequate water supply, and to permit Alberta to live up to that long-standing interprovincial water agreement. I see no problem at all, quite frankly, that has arisen under that agreement, and I don't quite grasp the significance of the leader's question, but no doubt I'll hear a little bit more in his supplementaries.
Maybe he doesn't either.
Speaker, it's clear that the government has been most inflexible when it comes to national standards that involve the federal government, national standards that could protect Albertans and Canadians. My second question is to the minister responsible for the dam. Mr. Speaker, my experience in life is that when you don't appear before a tribunal or a court, you usually have something to hide or to cover up.
You ought to know.
I'd like to know from the minister why he doesn't take the courage, build up the courage, to go before this tribunal and say, even to those Albertans who are questioning the safety of this dam, look, here's the data, here are the experts, there's nothing to worry about, we'll prove our case. Why doesn't he do that?
Mr. Speaker, the Leader of the Liberal Party may have been away for the last several months, but perhaps I could just bring him up to date with some certain things. We have cooperated fully with the Environment Assessment Review Panel on a number of occasions over the last several months, Mr. Speaker. On Friday, April 5, 1991, Saturday, April 6, 1991, the ERP panel was given a complete tour of the Oldman River Dam project and all mitigation works. The panel was accompanied by senior officials from the province of Alberta. In addition to the panel tour, Mr. Speaker, 2 site tours have been conducted with the 3 dam safety technical advisors in March and April of 1991. As well, Mr. Speaker, we have provided all information requested by the panel with respect to this matter, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, we're very anxious, in fact, to be available to the ERP panel, but just asked that they would just provide us one line. We asked for some cooperation with respect to this, as there is a court case before the Supreme Court of Canada that was heard in the early part of 1991, and there's still no decision rendered yet. We simply asked the panel to say that our appearance before this particular panel in Lethbridge today and tomorrow would not be a precedent for future projects in the province of Alberta. Their lawyers felt they couldn't do that. As a result, Mr. Speaker, we've made ourselves and our officials available in the same hotel that the ERP panel is, and we're prepared to answer any and all questions to all individuals who would like to raise a question and to provide all information required.
Mr. Speaker, this is the press release that says that the Alberta government will not participate in these safety hearings. That means that nobody's making Alberta's case. My last question is to the Deputy Premier. The ridiculous consequence of this, Mr. Deputy Premier, is that nobody is there to put forward Alberta's case, to prove that there is no concern, should be no concern for the safety of this particular dam. Now, I'm wondering whether the Deputy Premier is prepared to accept the consequences for this matter, because it may well be that this panel shuts down this entire dam at a cost of millions upon millions of dollars to the taxpayers of Alberta. Are you prepared to accept that?
Mr. Speaker, the Honourable Leader of the Liberal Party may not be aware that the dam is in fact working, and that water is now going over the spillway of that dam, and I'd like to know how anybody, short of Superman, could shut down the dam. Now, we haven't seen him for a while. The Honourable Leader of the Liberal Party, like everyone else involved in this matter, should reflect upon reality. The dam is there, it is working, it is in fact filled, and I would suggest that he is... there is a court case on, as the Honourable Minister of Public Works, Supply and Services already indicated. The case is yet to be decided by the Supreme Court of Canada. Nonetheless, the reality is that that dam is in operation. It is going to serve the purpose of ensuring that 170,000 people in southern Alberta have a secure water supply. Whether or not the Honourable Leader of the Liberal Party cares about those people or not, and the other party across the way, which has tried to shut down the dam from its inception, I can assure you that the people of southern Alberta want that dam to work, and it is working, and that is to the advantage of the people of southern Alberta, and I, for one, am proud of the actions of this government.
Pincher Creek Crow's Nest.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The subject which I wish to raise question on today has been introduced by the Leader of the Liberal Party, but I'd like the Minister of Public Works, Supplies and Services, if he could, elaborate on the implications of what would happen if Alberta did today proceed to be involved in these hearings on the Old Man Dam in Lethbridge regarding our constitutional jurisdiction regarding the environment in this province, if we were to participate without the line agreement which had been requested regarding this issue.
Mr. Speaker, Alberta was the first jurisdiction in Canada to create a Department of the Environment. We did this, the government in Alberta did this in 1971 before any other province in Canada created a Department of the Environment, and in fact, Mr. Speaker, before the federal government in Canada created a Department of the Environment. Alberta standards have been, for the most part, the leading standards in environmental matters across the country of Canada. And we've consistently said that we believe in strong standards in Canada. But, Mr. Speaker, if the standards that would be enunciated by Ottawa would be less than the standards in the province of Alberta, then that would be retrogressive for the people of Alberta. In the case of the Old Man River Dam, this project has gone through nearly 50 years of public hearings, reviews, and complete assessment. Mr. Speaker, it has followed all the regulatory channels that we have in the province of Alberta, and it's paid for entirely by the people of Alberta, Mr. Speaker. Further to that, Mr. Speaker, in the early part of 1991, a question was raised at the Supreme Court of Canada, in which we have not received the answer to yet. And all we've asked is that simply say that this would not be a precedent setting in appearing before the Environment Assessment Review Panel. We'd be happy to appear. But, Mr. Speaker, we're there across the hall to provide information to everyone in the province of Alberta and Canada who had requested of us.
Supplementary to the Minister, could the Minister elaborate on what the government is doing to answer questions about dam safety now that it is withdrawn from this federal hearing process?
Mr. Speaker, as I indicated in response to a question earlier from the Leader of the Liberal Party, that in several months ago we had worked with the Federal Environmental Assessment Review Panel. We spent time with them. We took the panel itself to view the Oldman River Dam, and we've had a technical panel working with the technical experts, and reports provided to me today, Mr. Speaker, that there is no question with respect to the safety in the Oldman River Dam. In addition to that, Mr. Speaker, we have an international panel that advises the province of Alberta with respect to this particular facility. And Mr. Speaker, we have, over the last several months, provided all of this information, and we're prepared to answer any and all questions in any form, and presumably the highest court in the province of Alberta is this Legislative Assembly, Mr. Speaker, and we're answering the questions here in a very public way.
Edmonton Belmont.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yesterday, a Stats Canada report was released, and it confirmed that Alberta has not been at all successful in eliminating the wage gap between men and women. Between the years 1985 and Provincial Treasurer says good? I am. Between 1985 and 1989, women's median income rose on average just over 3% per year. But more offensive than the Provincial Treasurer's comments, Mr. Speaker, is the fact that the wage gap during that 5-year period between men and women only narrowed by 1.3%.
Outrageous.
Given that data, I'd like to ask the Minister of Labour what she would, who is also responsible for women's issues, what she would recommend women do to lessen that gap.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'm always pleased to have an opportunity to speak about the various initiatives under the Plan for Action for Women. And we've stated on many occasions in this House and elsewhere that the goal is of this government economic equality for women, because we think that that will in fact lead the way to full participation in the economic and other aspects of our lives in Alberta. It is, however, a continuing challenge to achieve that goal. And we have looked at what some of the long-range programs might be that would help women to achieve economic equality. As Judge Abella said in her seminal report on this issue, it would appear that occupational segregation is one of the largest factors in the discrepancies between incomes for men and women. And to that end, we have instituted, for example, the Stepping Stones program, which involves volunteer role models speaking to junior high school girls and boys, encouraging them to make the decisions at that stage of their lives that will lead them into highly skilled and highly paid jobs in the future.
Sounds as though, Mr. Speaker, the minister responsible is just introducing a program of sharing the poverty rather than doing something that's progressive. I would have hoped that the minister would have at least suggested that we would have followed the other jurisdictions and introduced some pay equity legislation. And given that the minister is purportedly in favor of pay equity, I would ask when this legislature might see any kind of pay equity legislation introduced.
It's true, Mr. Speaker, that I have said and will say again that I support the principles of pay equity and of employment equity. And again, however, as to the process that might be brought into Alberta, I favor one that is negotiated between employees and employers. Referring back to the statistics, the labor income profile that Statistics Canada has published recently, One thing that the member opposite has failed to point out is that among the provinces in 1985, women in Alberta had the highest median employment income in Canada, and in 1989, women in Alberta had the second highest, second only to Ontario, who in that 4-year period, Ontario had undergone what I think Mr. Crow of the Bank of Canada once referred to as an overheated economy. I might also point out that between 1985 and 1989, pay equity as a remedy or a solution was not in effect in any province in the private sector, so that the figures that have been shown here do not owe their changes to any program of that nature anywhere in Canada.
Calgary Northwest.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my question today is to the Minister for Technology, Research and Telecommunications. And I want to question him a little bit further about our recent $18.5 million loss that we finally hear the news of today. The supercomputer industry in itself is not a bad idea, Mr. Speaker, but we have a little concern about what's going to happen with what's termed the intellectual property staying in Alberta. One of the things that we have learned, for example, in the Liberal caucus, is that the U.S. Department of Defense could in fact be the biggest beneficiary. We understand that the way the contract is set up, that all of the intellectual ownership of the technology will in fact be transferred to the U.S. Department of Defense. So my question to the put a plug in it. My question to the minister. My question to the minister responsible for technology, research, and telecommunications is, what guarantees does the minister have that the technology, the intellectual property, that will remain here in Alberta and not go to the U.S.?
Well, Mr. Speaker, the company that has made the bid for this technology and for this company is an Alberta company. It has agreed in its offer to pay the sum of $2.5 million for this technology. And I can assure the honourable member, and I'm sure he'd realize it himself, that they're not about to make an investment of $2.5 million if they didn't have some assurance with respect to the technology being available to them.
My supplementary question to the minister again on this is, since in 1989 was a bit of a rough year for him, he offered 2 loans to GSR and to Mirius, and both of them have now gone into receivership, and his batting average is 0 for 2. I'm wondering if the minister would make some comment about the loss of approximately 94 cents on the dollar is what we've lost in taxpayer dollars. Do you view this as a successful means of economic diversification like the minister down the bench likes to think we have?
Well, Mr. Speaker, all we have to do is to look at what's happening in Alberta to see the success stories out there. And if you want to talk in terms of Alberta Genetics or Intera or LSI Logic or any number of other companies among the 1,000+ that are operating in this province and making the Alberta economy better than any other economy in Canada, then you must recognize that something's happening out there, all except the honourable member and the leader of the opposition. But, Mr. Speaker, the fact of the matter is that the type of investments that we are making, in Alberta relate to infrastructure, relate to technology transfer and the commercialization of technologies. And the figures that are thrown out by the honourable member are just not right. And Albertans know it.
Good answer. Calgary Glenmore.
Mr. Speaker, there always seems to be doom and gloom highlighted by the media and members of opposition regarding job layoffs and company failures. And recently, the Calgary Economic Development Authority published a magazine outlining...
Thank you, honourable member. Should at least be enough decency in the members to allow the person to get out the first 2 sentences. Calgary Glenmore.
Speaker, the opposition do not like good news, and the Calgary Authorities Development have published good news about all the economic development occurring in that city. And one of the areas that they accent is the area of manufacturing and fashions and moving ahead with advanced technology. Could the Minister of Technology, Research and Communications please give an update as to the programs and the infrastructure that have been set up to help industry and to help their programs?
Well, Mr. Speaker, it's always good to see that a responsible organization, an optimistic and enthusiastic organization such as the Calgary Economic Development Authority is looking ahead and knows the importance of technology to keeping up in the world for Albertans and Alberta industry. And I believe, Mr. Speaker, that the type of investments that we are making in the infrastructure to which the honourable member has referred, infrastructure that relates to the applied research and development of products and technologies in this province, and I think of the Alberta Research Council, the Alberta Microelectronics Centre, the recently announced WestAIM in Advanced Industrial Materials, the Laser Institute, the Electronics Test Centre. All of these are a very important part of the applied research infrastructure that the honourable member is referring to, and a very, very important part of our strategy to make advanced technologies work here in Alberta.
And Mr. Speaker, the province has invested a lot of money in these infrastructures, and I think that it's important that these are highlighted, and I'd like to ask the Minister to also indicate whether or not there is some help in training employees in areas of advanced technology.
Mr. Speaker, this is a very important point that the honourable member brings forward, because the human resource element is extremely critical to our ability to keep up in world competition. And when I think of the recent announcement by Northern Telecom, who is a leader in telecommunications in this province, exporting to 40 different countries around the world, competing with the best, and they have entered into an agreement with Southern Alberta Institute of Technology whereby state students will be able to participate with Northern Telecom in furthering their learning on the job. And I think that's a very important step, one that Northern Telecom should be congratulated for. And I think it speaks well not only of SAIT, but Northern Telecom and advanced technologies generally in this province.
Edmonton Strathcona.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yesterday in the Assembly, the Minister of Corporate and Consumer Affairs indicated that the deceptive sales practices of National Safety Associates was a federal matter. In fact, the false product claims of NSA are covered under Alberta's Unfair Trade Practices Act, and as early as 1989, the Minister was made aware that NSA routinely engaged in unfair practices as defined in the Act. To the Minister of Consumer and Corporate Affairs, given these circumstances, does the Minister still contend that he is adequately exercising his responsibility to protect Alberta consumers from a company that continues to use deceptive claims to sell its products for 2 years after he became aware of the practice?
Mr. Speaker, with respect to the honourable member's question, he's quite correct that there were complaints in 1989 to the Department of Consumer and Corporate Affairs. One of those complaints dealt with the advertising which the member speaks of. The matter was resolved by having the company agree not to use that advertising in further advertisements, and the complainant was satisfied in that respect. With regards to the federal versus provincial jurisdiction involved, it is the federal government that has the ability to test and the product testing dimensions involved, therefore the one who can determine whether or not the products being sold are in fact in keeping with what's advertised. We dealt specifically with a claim that it was endorsed by a particular American system for giving consumers some confidence, and that wasn't the case, and that was corrected. In terms of the product's ability to carry out the claims, that is being investigated by the federal government. We've asked them as much as 2 years ago to investigate clearly other claims in that regard, and Personally, I'd like to see some response there as quickly as possible so that consumers could indeed have some confidence when purchasing or not these products.
Mr. Speaker, the problem here is deceptive trade practices and not product testing. I have for filing a copy of a letter from the Minister of Environment confirming that the Minister of Consumer and Corporate Affairs was aware of the complaints against NSA in terms of unfair trade practices, and also confirming that the company had given assurances that it would stop making the claims. But under the Unfair Trade Practices Act, there is a monitoring process, and to the Minister of Consumer and Corporate Affairs, given that the representatives of his department have acknowledged that normal practice in these matters is to monitor offending companies to ensure that unfair practices have ceased, will the minister explain why the routine following up monitoring was not apparently done in this case?
Mr. Speaker, the member confuses two dimensions of the responsibilities. Certainly he's right with regards to monitoring once again the advertising which would state that a company had endorsation that it did not have. To the best of my knowledge, the company did not again make that statement. Claims about the effectiveness of their product, however, is a federal matter of responsibility, one that can only be resolved by having the product tested and it determined whether or not that product in fact can carry out what it says it does. And in that regard, the Federal Department of Consumer and Corporate Affairs is responsible. I can understand the member's confusion. There is often difficulty defining the differences of responsibility between our two jurisdictions. But I'm not sure what the Honourable Leader of the Opposition is referring to. I'm trying to give an honest answer to, I think, an honest question.
Westlock Sturgeon. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The question to Parks and Recreation. About 4 weeks ago yesterday, I asked the Minister of Parks and Recreation why he allowed the Alberta Wildlife Park to be shut down during a period when the province could be realizing $40,000 or $50,000 a month in receipts. And Mr. Speaker, the Minister informed the House at that time that about May the 10th he would be ready to go with decisions on proposals on who made offers to purchase the park. But Mr. Speaker, in view of the fact that the Foundation is obviously stalling to try to keep from selling to Aunt Helen's group, will the Minister at least intervene to ensure that the Wildlife Park is reopened at once, not only to claim the amount of money that the Treasury could claim, but also the hundreds of school children, thousands literally, that could be enjoying it during the summer months?
Mr. Speaker, the Alberta Wildlife Park Foundation are the managers and directors of this collection of animals at the present time. They have been in a public process of call for proposals. Those came in on May the 10th, as the member has indicated, and they are now in the final throes of analyzing those proposals and will be coming forth in the near future with their decision as it relates to the Alberta Wildlife Park.
Mr. Speaker, perhaps the Minister could explain to the Assembly just why he is trusting a foundation that is merely a corporal's guard now, set up by the government years ago, that was obviously incompetent and let the place run down and into debt and couldn't raise any money. Why is he trusting that foundation to make the decision for him?
Mr. Speaker, the only way to address an innuendo such as that is to perhaps give some historical background to the Alberta Wildlife Park. In 1979, the Alberta Wildlife Park was operated by the private sector, Messrs. Durham and Cochrane, who started up the Alberta Wildlife Park with their collection. And then during the time when there was a collection at Polar Park that was going to be dispersed, had offered their services to take the collection to Alberta Wildlife Park, and at that time they had taken an Alberta Opportunity Company loan as well as a loan from the Royal Bank. During that time, they operated as a private sector wildlife park and facilitated it through the monies from Alberta Opportunity Company and the Royal Bank as a private operation. In 1985, they approached the government and said that they were now financially embarrassed as far as the wildlife park was concerned and asked for intervention by this government. At that time, we facilitated the establishment of the Alberta Wildlife Park Foundation, and at the same time turned the park over to the foundation for $1 after having taken out the Alberta Opportunity Company loan for $2.3 million and $900,000 of the Royal Bank debentures. From that time on, this board that was established was an advisory committee to the Alberta Wildlife Park and the private sector, and it was their recommendation that this board be established of those members at that time. To make a statement that this board has done anything but what they were asked to do by the previous owners and by the public, it's a foundation incorporated under Section 9 of the Companies Act, is not a fair innuendo or a direction. They have, to the best of my knowledge, tried to make this park successful, but because of many studies who said that location of this park, as well as the problem with perhaps the short season that we have in the area that's involved, made it impossible for it to be a financial success.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The Chair allowed the answer to go on at some length because of the somewhat intemperate remarks in the preamble. Graham Cochrane.
In Alberta today, students in ever increasing numbers are taking up to 2 years to complete their grade 12 education. This, of course, has implications to our education system, both in terms of budget and in terms of crowdedness of classrooms. Given this situation, my question is to the Minister of Education. Has he considered implementing a compulsory grade 13 in Alberta schools?
Grade 13? Mr. Speaker, the answer to the question is no. But so the honourable member is aware of the facts. There are some nearly 40,000 students registered in our public and separate high schools in this province, registered in grade 12. And of those students registered as of September 30, about 3,550 of them already hold diplomas, either general or advanced diplomas. In fact, Mr. Speaker, nearly 50 of them hold diplomas, advanced diplomas with an excellent standing.
My supplemental question, Mr. Speaker, again to the Minister, it would appear to me that because of the concerns that have been raised to me by my constituents, and in fact some of the comments that have been made by the Minister himself, that there is a great deal of concern in schools about access to our universities, to our post-secondary institutions. And my question to the Minister is this one of the main reasons why students in Alberta are taking 2 years to complete their grade 12?
Mr. Speaker, it's a very legitimate question. There are naturally a number of students who are returning, seeking an upgrade in various courses in order to gain access to university. But, Mr. Speaker, there are also a number of students who are going back to enhance or to find a better balance in their program, so that they take Physics 30 and an art program, that they take Math 30 and they also take a drama program, or a business education program. But, Mr. Speaker, it's also got to be recognized that it's estimated that some 2/3 of our high school students are working part-time, and they're building that in as part of their high school program. And it's estimated that more than half of those students are spending more time working part-time than they are doing homework in a given week. But Mr. Speaker, it comes down to choice, and those choices are being made by students. But the bottom line is that our high school graduation requirements in this province, Mr. Speaker, are rigorous. And they should be rigorous, and they will continue to be rigorous. And I will not recommend to my colleagues that we water them down just to improve our numbers.
That's a good idea.
Before we deal with Standing Order 40, might we revert to the introduction of special guests? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Minister of Occupational Health and Safety.
Mr. Speaker, on March 1, 1991, I had a visit with the Knighton School and met with a number of students, and we had a very, very good meeting and discussion, and I invited those young people to attend the legislature. I'm pleased today to introduce to you that group of young people and teachers and parents here from the Knighton Central School. There are 29 grade 6 students accompanied by their principal, Mr. John Maslicki, a number of parents and other teachers. They're seated in members gallery. I'd ask them to rise and receive the warm welcome of this assembly.
Rocky Mountain House.
Speaker, it gives me a great deal of pleasure to introduce to you and to other members of the Assembly some 17 grade 6 eager students from the Lestheville Elementary School. They are accompanied by their teacher, Mrs. Elaine Young, and parents, Mrs. Brenda Colt and Mr. Ken May. I hope that they're seated in the members gallery. I would ask them to rise and the members to give them the traditional warm welcome of the Assembly.
Edmonton Beverly.
Speaker, I'm delighted today to introduce to you and to members of the Assembly 30 seniors from the Beverly Active Senior Society. These are truly the pioneers that have made this province a better place for all of us to live in. They're seated in the public gallery, and I'd ask them to rise and to receive the welcome of this Assembly.
Minister of Public Works, Supply and Services.
Mr. Speaker, in the members' gallery today are a group of young people representing Nerlandia School and the Nerlandia community. The group of students are accompanied by their teacher, Mr. Bert Van Nieuwenhuis, bus driver, Mrs. Irene Baker, parents, Mrs. Rita Stridehorse, Mrs. Alida Tuninga, Mrs. Marg Tuninga, and Mrs. Rose Olthius. Mr. Speaker, I'd ask our guests to rise and receive the warm welcome of the Legislative Assembly.
Standing Order 40, request, Edmonton Jasper Place.
Mr. Speaker, I'm seeking the unanimous consent of all members of the Assembly to put a motion dealing with the matter of the Old Man River Dam. I have read the motion under notice, and I've circulated copies to all honorable members, so I don't feel I need to repeat the wording of the motion. We had in question period a most unsatisfactory exchange regarding this issue. The Liberal Party put forward the position that the province should participate because environment should be a national jurisdiction, and we had a member of the Conservative government suggest that they shouldn't participate because the jurisdiction should be provincial. We went back and forth on this question of whether the jurisdiction should be with one or with the other. Now, I understood that all of us were supposed to be listening to Albertans about their view about where the jurisdiction is, and I have a concern about whether we should be taking such positions at this point in the process. But I think all of that is quite beside the most important point, which is the question of public safety, which is what this hearing is all about. Now, the question of whether the design and safety is adequate to protect the public is a question which has not been definitively answered to this point in time. And that's the overriding consideration and an urgent one in my submission, Mr. Speaker. The government says, well, we have studies that say it's safe, and there are other studies that say it's safe. The point is that nobody has ever had to prove it. And when it comes to a question of the safety of a structure of this magnitude and importance, I think we should all be from Missouri. We should all state categorically that you have to show us that the dam is in fact safely designed, safely engineered, and safely constructed. Now, the underlying importance of this and the reason this hearing is in place right now, I remind members, is because of a federal appeal court decision that the process to date has not provided for an independent review of the evidence and has not provided an opportunity for the public to be involved fully in these crucial safety issues. Having made that ruling, the Federal Court of Canada said that there has to be a federal IRB. If there was a review process that dealt with those issues adequately, then there would be no federal IRB today. So that's the background. The background is that there's been a gap in the process. These questions have not been answered definitively. And we're simply saying, in view of the urgent nature of this matter, the fact that hearings are scheduled for today and tomorrow, that we should put this question of the safety of the public ahead of any turf wars, ahead of any private legal strategy or advice which may be valid or may not be valid, depending on which lawyer you talk to, that the public safety is much more important than that. And in view of the importance of the matter, that members should allow this motion to come to the floor this afternoon.
Request under Standing Order 40 for the matter to proceed. Those willing to give unanimous consent, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. No. Matter fails. Orders of the day.
Government bills and orders for second reading.